Chapter 158. The vibrations grew clearer and clearer, and soon, Yi Chen arrived at a large room. The room looked like it was pieced together by dozens of ordinary rooms. It was 100 square meters and 130 meters tall. A thick pillar stood in the middle of the room. At the top of the pillar was a pure white ball of light. Inside the ball of light, a dark red secret manual floated quietly. A manual? Yi Chen's mind flickered. He just needed an Earth Realm martial art. He wondered what kind of manual this was. Taking a few steps forward, Yi Chen sensed something and hurriedly dodged to the right. Puff! A 2-meter-long white light beam silently rose from under the floor. It moved at an incredible speed and let out a sharp swishing sound. If Yi Chen didn't have such a sharp sense of perception, he might have been penetrated by the light beam and teleported out of the palace. Standing still, Yi Chen raised his head and looked at the sky. He murmured to himself, "There's a trap on the floor, I better not fly over from the air." The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace is a mysterious place. How could it have such a big flaw? There must be a more dangerous trap in the air. Thinking of this, Yi Chen took out a low-rank soul stone from his pocket and threw it into the air. Puff! A small hole appeared on the left side of the wall, from which a beam of light shot out and shattered the low-rank soul stone into pieces, leaving not even a trace of ash behind. With my protective Jin Qi, I won't be able to defend myself. Yi Chen estimated the power of that beam of light, then shook his head. Flying over from the air was not an option, it would only lead to death. Therefore, he could only walk over from the ground. Raising his foot, Yi Chen put it down again. A silhouette appeared on the other side of the door. It was the young master devil, Leng Wuqing. Leng Wuqing was slightly surprised to see Yi Chen. He didn't think that Yi Chen would be able to survive until now, which meant that Yi Chen had also stepped into the clasping Yuan realm. "What I need is a martial art manual. What kind do you need?" Leng Wuqing didn't move and asked. Yi Chen said, "Cultivation technique." Nodding his head, Leng Wuqing said, "That's easy. If it's a martial technique manual, it'll belong to me. If it's a cultivation technique manual, it'll belong to you. If it's neither, we'll have to rely on our own abilities. I'm sure you don't want to get into a meaningless fight." Leng Wuqing was still quite afraid of Yi Chen. An early clasping Yuan realm martial artist who had mastered the sword intent was definitely a tough nut to crack. He would rather face the other hidden dragon-ranked martial artists than face Yi Chen directly. Of course, it was not that he was afraid of Yi Chen, he just did not want to fight a tough and fruitless battle. "Sure, but I have to add one more condition. Now that the martial technique manual is in my hands, you cannot take it away for free. You have to exchange it for something of equal value, and vice versa." Yi Chen agreed. He was not a battle maniac, and it was best to avoid unnecessary battles. Not to mention that he had lost the hidden cloud sword, so he could not use his full strength. All right. Leng Wuqing did not believe that he would not be able to get the manual. What Yi Chen said actually stimulated his competitive spirit. Pausing for a second, Yi Chen glanced around and said, "Let's get closer to the stone pillar first, this place is not easy to deal with." Hearing this, Leng Wuqing stamped his foot heavily, and his qi spread out along the ground. Whoosh! 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 White light thorns emerged from the ground one after another, piercing through the air. After 2 blinks of an eye, the white light thorns disappeared. Although Leng Wuqing had memorized the location of the white light thorns, he was a prudent person, so he stamped his foot again and spread out even more qi. The next moment, half of the room was filled with white light thorns. The tips of the light thorns were as cold as the stars in the sky, making one's scalp numb. Leng Wuqing slightly frowned and said, "The light thorns appear in different places every time, and it is disadvantageous to both sides in a fight. Then I hope the manual is either a martial technique or a martial technique." Yi Chen smiled faintly. He did not agree with Leng Wuqing's words. In a fight, as long as he used his qi to lock his position, he would not have to worry about his opponent triggering the mechanism by vibrating the ground. The two carefully walked towards the stone pillar in the middle of the room. Swoosh! Light thorns shot out from time to time. While the two dodged, they did not dare to use up all of their chi. Neither of them could be sure if there was a mechanism at the place where they landed. If there was a mechanism, they could quickly dodge it, and if there was no mechanism, they could gather a whole breath of chi again. As for whether there was a mechanism at every place they landed, it was unlikely to happen. If it did, it would mean that they were extremely unlucky today. With their cultivation, although a breath of Jin Qi could last longer than normal early clasping Yuan realm warriors, it could only last 7 times. After 7 times, if there was still a mechanism at the place where they landed, they would definitely be eliminated. Fortunately, this had not happened yet. The most dangerous situation was that there would only be 4 traps in a row. Soon, the two approached the stone pillar at the same time. Come down. Almost at the same time, the two reached out their hands towards the light ball on the stone pillar, trying to pull it down. The light ball did not move at all. At this moment, Yi Chen's hands, which were filled with Jin Qi, stuck on the stone pillar and quickly flew up. Along the way, he changed his hands rhythmically, making sure that one of his hands was always touching the stone pillar. Leng Wuqing thought for a while. He believed that Yi Chen did not do this for no reason. There might be danger in the air, so he should not act rashly. Leng Wuqing followed suit. His hands, which were filled with Jin Qi, also stuck on the stone pillar, chasing after Yi Chen. He was as agile as a monkey. The stone pillar was only 220 meters tall. Within 2 blinks of an eye, Yi Chen had already reached the top. With his left hand and feet stuck on the stone pillar, Yi Chen's right hand formed a claw, trying to tear the light ball apart. Pop! The surface of the light ball had a strong elasticity, which almost sent Yi Chen flying. Good! The iron spear landed in his hand. Yi Chen gave a low growl and pierced the light ball with the spear. Clang! The tip of the spear was blocked by a hand, which made a metal clashing sound. Let's see what we can do. Yi Chen laughed. Red flames rose on the iron spear, which shook off Leng Wuqing's hand. Then, he took the opportunity to whip the light ball. The light ball stayed where it was, motionless. Its surface was dented, making a creaking sound. Earth Demon's body-breaking cut. Leng Wuqing did not fight with Yi Chen. He turned his hand into a knife and chopped at the other side of the light ball. Then, as if they had discussed it, the two of them attacked the light ball again and again. The light ball was dented and distorted. Just at the moment when the light ball collapsed, Yi Chen's body shook. Countless qi swords floated around his body, flying toward the light ball and Leng Wuqing, covering the whole area. Leng Wuqing's eyes flashed with cold light. He raised his hands to protect his face. After a series of metal explosions, Leng Wuqing was unharmed. Those qi swords could not even break his skin. When he put down his hands, he found that the light ball had been broken, and the dark red secret book fell into Yi Chen's hands. Humph! Although Leng Wuqing was angry, he did not want to fight. It was too inconvenient to fight from above. Yi Chen's body went down and landed on the ground. Glancing at Leng Wuqing, Yi Chen opened the dark red secret book and looked at it. After a while, Leng Wuqing, who was standing 20 steps away, asked, "What kind of secret book is it?" Yi Chen smiled and said, "You are lucky. It is a palm secret book, and it is very powerful. It has reached the middle rank of Earth Realm. To be honest, even I am a bit tempted." Leng Wuqing's face darkened. "But we had a deal. Are you going back on your word?" Yi Chen shook his head. "What do you want to trade for it?" Without hesitation, Leng Wuqing untied the heavy bag on his back and threw it to Yi Chen. He said, "There are 7 low-rank Earth Realm secret books, 65 top-rank Human Realm secret books, a low-rank dagger, a low-rank light armor, a low-rank short knife, 3 red light fireballs, and 5 herbs. Each of them is worth no less than 50,000 gold. They are all yours. Taking the bag, Yi Chen was surprised. Don't you want to look at the secret books? They might not be suitable for you. Leng Wuqing said, as long as they are martial arts, they are suitable for me. There is no need to look at them. He opened the bag. Just like Leng Wuqing said, there were quite a lot of things inside. If he was not mistaken, only a small part of these things were obtained by Leng Wuqing himself. Most of them should be from disciples from other martial institutions. However, he did not care about the origin of these things. The value of the things inside the bag was astonishing. The 7 low-rank Earth Realm secret books were worth more than 21,000 low-rank soul stones. The 65 top-rank Human Realm secret books were worth 3,250 low-rank soul stones. A low-rank dagger was worth no less than 5,000 low-rank soul stones. A low-rank light armor was even more valuable, probably worth more than 20,000 low-rank soul stones. The low-rank short knife was worth no less than 8,000 low-rank soul stones. The 3 red light fireballs were even more powerful weapons. They were powerful enough to kill a normal early-clasping Yuan realm martial artist. If a mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artist was caught off guard, he would also be blown to death. Each of them was worth no less than 2 million gold, which was 5,000 low-rank soul stones. 3 red light fireballs were worth 15,000 low-rank soul stones. As for the 3 herbs, they were the least valuable, but they were still worth 200,000 gold, which was equivalent to 500 low-rank soul stones. The total value was about 73,000 low-rank soul stones. Yi Chen did not intend to give away the secret books. Although there are a lot of things, they are not as valuable as the mid-rank Earth Realm secret books. If I give them to the sect, I can get 3,000 mid-rank soul stones, which is 150,000 low-rank soul stones. You should know the importance of the low-rank Earth Realm secret books. It is enough to become the most important martial art of a rank 9 martial institution. Leng Wuqing was stunned for a moment. What Yi Chen said was right. Mid-rank Earth Realm secret books were not cabbages. An ordinary rank 9 sect would be lucky to have 1, and an rank 8 sect would at most have 3. For example, although their barbarian devil sect was a rank 7 sect, they only had 5 or 6 mid-rank Earth Realm secret books. Moreover, he had already seen most of them. 2 of them were cultivation techniques, such as his Earth Devil body refining technique. One of them was a supplementary cultivation technique, while the other 2 were movement techniques and leg techniques. None of them were suitable for him, otherwise, he would not have valued this secret book so much. Yi Chen continued, if I give you this secret book, not only will you not suffer a loss, but you will also earn a lot. The higher-ups of the barbarian devil sect will definitely reward you with a large amount of low-rank soul stones or mid-rank soul stones. On the other hand, I will suffer a huge loss. Not only will I lose a secret book, I will also lose 77,000 low-rank soul stones. Don't you think so? Then what do you suggest? Leng Wuqing asked. That's easy. I will read the contents of this secret book to you. You can memorize it and cultivate it when you go back. As for the real book, leave it with me. After hesitating for a moment, Leng Wuqing agreed. Chapter 159. As a genius, his memory was extremely amazing. There were more than 8,000 words in this palm technique manual, and Leng Wuqing had memorized them all by heart. As for the Zhen Qi circulation diagram, it was easy to draw it on a piece of cloth, which was not much different from the original manual. How about we join hands? I think there are more than 2 of us in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace. Putting away the manual, Yi Chen suddenly suggested. Leng Wuqing responded, this manual is more than enough, I don't want to fight for anything else. Yi Chen smiled faintly. This Leng Wuqing was interesting. Although he was from an evil martial school, he was not as cruel and greedy as those evil martial artists. However, not all evil martial artists had the same personality. Some of them looked gentle on the outside, but were vicious on the inside. Some of them looked vicious on the outside, but had their own principles. This Lin Wuqing should be one of those people who looked cold on the outside, but had principles on the inside. As for whether he was as heartless as his name suggested, no one knew. As Yi Chen stepped into the light door, Lin Wuqing said again, "Not to mention, I don't have anything else to exchange for treasures." Ripples appeared on the light door, and Lin Wuqing disappeared in it. "Maybe you will be the one who got the treasures this time." Yi Chen smiled bitterly and murmured to himself. After looking around and making sure that there was nothing else, Yi Chen carefully walked out of the room and came to the corridor outside. The corridor was connected to many rooms. It was even more labyrinthine than a maze, as if there was no end to it. "Let's just walk around." Yi Chen couldn't think of anything, so he had to try his luck. Corridor after corridor, room after room, upper floor, lower floor, lower floor. Within 2 hours, he had walked more than 100 kilometers. Towards the end, he was completely dizzy, unable to see where he was going. In another spacious room, there was a pool in the middle of the room. The pool was less than 10 zhang in radius, and there was a stone platform in the middle of the pool. On the stone platform, there was a pure white light ball. Inside the light ball, there was a saber with ancient patterns. The saber was still in its scabbard, but people could already feel that it was extraordinary. "Is this saber prepared for me?" On the pool, Wuxia fell in love with this saber at first sight. His breath quickened. "Hm." He turned his head and saw a man. It was the killer eagle, Yuan Hengying. "Yuan Hengying, what? Do you want to compete with me for the great blade?" Wuxia's face was filled with an evil and murderous aura, as if he was ready to kill Yuan Hengying at any moment. Yuan Hengying carefully went through the trap. He stepped on the pool and said, Wuxia, "This treasure doesn't belong to anyone, how can you say it's yours?" Wuxia sneered, "It seems like you not only want the blade, but also want to challenge my position. Very good, today you will see blood." "Hee, we don't know who's going to bleed yet. Do you really think that you can defeat me?" "I, Yuan Hengying, would like to see if you have improved or not." The two of them were not too far apart in terms of ranking, and their strengths were almost the same. Yuan Hengying had never been afraid of his opponent, not to mention the temptation of treasures. Die. Who was Wuxia? He was as cruel and bloodthirsty as Yuan Hengying. It was just that he didn't like killing as much as Yuan Hengying. Therefore, once Yuan Hengying said those words, Wuxia had already decided to kill him. He unsheathed his great blade and released a blood-red beam of blade qi towards Yuan Hengying. Heavenly eagle art, die. Yuan Hengying was prepared for this. He shook his body. Nezhen Qi eagle rose from his body, blocking the blood-red beam of blade qi with one of its wings. Bang bang bang. Both of them clashed against each other, causing streams of water to shoot up from the pool. When the water stream was broken, Wuxia's face looked grim. He threw out 8 strikes in a row. Blood rain. The blade qi tore the air apart and let out a horrifying roar. Looking over, the pool was filled with a blood-red light, and the blood-red beams of light intertwined with each other like a giant net. The beams of light were trying to cut Yuan Hengying into dozens of pieces. Yuan Hengying sneered and said, Wuxia, if this is all you've got, you better give up the treasure. Otherwise, you won't just be bleeding today, I will make your head explode. After he finished talking, he let out a great shout towards the sky. Countless Shenqi eagles spread out, their sharp claws crazily tore the blood-red beams of light, wave after wave. It's been about 3 months since I've tried to kill someone. I will let you know what it feels like to be killed by me, Wuxia. Both of them were extremely powerful, one was a bloodthirsty killer, the other was cold-blooded. The number of warriors who had died in their hands was more than 10,000. They had killed countless people, and the murderous aura released from their bodies could even scare ordinary warriors to death. At this moment, the two of them were fighting against each other. The pool was filled with horrible murderous aura, which created illusions of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Blood beheading. While the battle was getting more and more intense, Wuxia suddenly made his move. He held the blade in his right hand and swung it down with all of his power. The pool suddenly caved in, and an invisible wave of blood-red qi enveloped Yuan Hanying. It then quickly transformed into an executioner's blade and swung down heavily. Crack! The Zhen Qi eagles outside of Yuan Hanying's body were shattered, and Yuan Hanying's life was hanging by a thread. Wuxia, I will let you have a taste of my most powerful attack, Demon Eagle World. Yuan Hanying's eyes were wide open. A dark cyan-colored Zhen Qi shot up into the sky and transformed into a pair of gigantic eagle claws. Once this pair of Zhen Qi eagle claws appeared, it gave people a sense of ancient evil, as if they were the claws of a devil. Boom! The executioner's blade was crushed into pieces, and the gigantic eagle claws were also destroyed. The horrifying shockwaves stacked on top of each other and spread out in all directions, shattering the pure white light ball. Yuan Hanying, I will spare your life this time, but the next time I see you, I will make sure that you will die a horrible death. The white light ball was shattered, and the blade fell into Wuxia's hand. He quickly stepped on the ground and avoided the traps, but he still had the time to talk. However, his voice was obviously filled with killing intent. Yuan Hanying was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He was no weaker than Wuxia, and now that his treasure had been stolen, he felt so angry that he had nowhere to vent his anger. Wuxia, after I kill that little bastard, I will definitely kill you. Seeing that Wuxia had already walked to the light door, Yuan Hanying said. I will wait for you. Wuxia didn't even need to guess, he knew that Yuan Hanying and him were not the only two people in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace, there must be other people. If he wasn't mistaken, one of the three treasures might have already fallen into someone else's hands. Adding the blade in his hand, that would be two treasures. Although the last one was also tempting to him, Yuan Hanying had failed this time, which made him hate Yuan Hanying's guts. Yuan Hanying might use a move that would harm both of them, so Yuan Hanying had to be careful. Therefore, he directly left the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace through the light door. He had already gotten one treasure anyway, he might not be able to get the second one even if he stayed. Once Wuxia left, Yuan Hanying didn't have the time to be angry anymore, he rushed to the other places. He had to get one of the three treasures. Another half an hour passed. Yi Chen was a bit tired, not physically, but mentally. These endless rooms and tunnels were exactly the same, which could easily give people the wrong impression and make them feel annoyed and unable to control their emotions. It was all thanks to his sword intent that he was able to stay calm all the time. The sword intent was invulnerable. Apart from being able to kill external devils, it could also kill internal devils and distracting thoughts. This was also the reason why all sword artists respected the sword intent so much. Not knowing how much time had passed, Yi Chen's walking posture froze. Buzz! 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 Far away from him, a faint vibration came over. Although it was very slight, Yi Chen, who had a sharp sense of perception, still managed to sense it. The second treasure. Quickening his steps, Yi Chen's clothes fluttered in the air. He turned left and right and soon, he disappeared. After a while, Yi Chen arrived in front of a room that was exactly the same as the previous one. Without any hesitation, he raised his foot and stepped into the room. The room was empty, but a huge platform was floating in the air. This platform didn't have any support, it was supported by a mysterious power, which made it as stable as a mountain. There was a meter-tall square platform, on top of which was a pure white light sphere. Inside the white light sphere, a dark golden book was floating in the middle. Another secret manual. Yi Chen was excited. While he was looking for treasures, he had been thinking about many things because he was bored. Although the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace seemed to have a lot of treasures, not every one of them was suitable for them. If this was the case, wouldn't the rewards be useless? Therefore, the 3 treasures that were opened in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace might be suitable for each of them, or all of them. For example, the Palm Skill Book was suitable for Leng Wuqing, but Yi Chen didn't know what kind of book the third one was. It might be suitable for Leng Wuqing, or maybe for himself. Maybe it really is a martial skill book. The traps in this room were pure white earth fire. The earth fire spurted out, and its attacking range was even greater than the white light thorns, covering a radius of a few meters. Fortunately, the number of traps in this room was much less than the previous one, which meant that people would always have space to dodge. Soon, Yi Chen arrived under the floating platform. He threw a low-rank spirit stone into the air. No traps were activated. It seemed that the area under the platform was a safe zone. After figuring this out, Yi Chen wasn't afraid anymore. He leapt into the air, put his palms, which were filled with Shen Qi, on the bottom of the platform, and quickly moved to the edge of the platform, flipped his body, and was about to jump onto the platform. Puff! At this moment, a huge green hand made of Shen Qi pressed down towards Yi Chen's body. The power of this hand was extremely condensed. Before it even reached Yi Chen's body, Yi Chen felt that all of his muscles and bones had tightened, as if they couldn't bear the pressure and were about to collapse. Yi Chen didn't panic. He put one of his hands on the platform and let his body hang in the air, while the other hand held the iron spear and swung it out. Boom! The huge hand made of Shen Qi disappeared, and Yi Chen saw who it was. "Zhuang Fei, it's you," said Yi Chen with a cold look. His opponent had launched a fatal attack as soon as he attacked. If it weren't for Yi Chen's powerful soul power, which allowed him to sense things that were way more powerful than other martial artists at the same level as him, and he had a faint premonition that this palm attack could kill him. Even if he didn't die, he would fall out of the platform's coverage and be burned into ashes by the earth fire. "Yi Chen, this martial skill book is mine," said Zhuang Fei expressionlessly. Chapter 160. Give it to you. Just because you are the young Master Emerald. Since his opponent had already tried to kill him, Yi Chen would not show any mercy. A cold light flashed through Zhuang Fei's eyes. A couple of months ago, he did not take this guy seriously at all. But now that he had gained some power, he had become more and more arrogant. However, he was a bit surprised that his powerful palm attack did not hit him. "Give me the manual and I won't make things difficult for you," Zhuang Fei said indifferently as he secretly accumulated his true qi and prepared himself for a thunderous strike. "You want the manual? Maybe you don't have it." Right then, Yi Chen had already landed on the platform. He shook his iron spear, and the tip of the spear, which contained the sword intent, easily broke the light ball open, and the manual was sucked into his hand. Seeing this, Zhuang Fei's killing intent was immediately revealed. Yi Chen did not care about him, he just stood on the platform. He opened the first page of the manual. The mysterious great art, a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art, divided into 11 levels. The first 2 levels are the foundation, and the third level is the palace. After that, with each level up, your Shen Qi will be condensed by 30%. Once you reach the 11th level, you will be able to condense a mouthful of Supreme Jin Yuan, which can easily kill your enemies. Condense a mouthful of Supreme Jin Yuan at the highest level. Reading this, Yi Chen was sure that the mysterious great art was the martial art that he needed, and it was even more powerful than he had expected. Now, not to mention the young Master Emerald, Zhuang Fei, even if a late clasping Yuan realm martial artist came, he would still kill him. Zhen Yuan could only be cultivated by astral reaching realm martial artists. Before reaching the astral reaching realm, all the martial artists cultivated Jin Qi. The two were only one word apart, but the power was completely different. If one could condense a mouthful of Zhen Yuan before reaching the astral reaching realm, it would definitely be the ace of all ace attacks. No clasping Yuan realm martial artist would be able to block it, and would definitely be killed. Putting away the mysterious great art manual, Yi Chen was satisfied, and was about to leave. Since you don't want to give me the manual, don't blame me for being cruel. Dodging the gushing earth fire one by one, Zhuang Fei arrived at the bottom of the platform. In the blink of an eye, he flipped himself over and stood on the platform. Yi Chen stood in place without moving. The room was full of traps, and it was impossible for him to leave quickly. Instead of doing something useless, he might as well wait here. He wanted to see how the other party was going to make him stay. You used to be the most powerful young warrior of the Windy Nation, but you're definitely not anymore. Let me shatter your glory. Without a sword in his hand, Yi Chen did not mind at all. With his sword intent and iron spear that were almost at the entry level, he could use about 80% of his power at his peak, which was more than enough to defeat Zhuang Fei. As for the reason why Zhuang Fei was so confident, it was probably because he did not expect that Yi Chen could still improve his sword intent. You're courting death, heavenly emerald palm. Zhuang Fei's body didn't move as he struck out with his palm. Soundlessly, the emerald green Zhenqi hand shot out, aiming straight for Yi Chen's face. Break! Yi Chen sneered. Like a poisonous snake, the iron spear pierced into the weak spot of the Zhenqi giant hand. Pop! The Zhenqi giant hand disappeared into thin air. Another weak spot attack. Before, when his palm attack was broken, Zhuang Fei had already sensed something. Now, he was sure that Yi Chen had mastered a martial art that allowed him to discover weak spots. Now, let's see how you're going to break this. Green shadow light. Zhuang Fei yelled out while he threw out a series of attacks with both of his hands. Streams of emerald green Zhenqi giant hands attacked towards Yi Chen like green shadows. Their trajectories were unpredictable, and they would automatically adjust themselves in the middle of the attack. No matter how powerful you are, I can still break it. Yi Chen used his spear as a sword. He shook the tip of the spear and launched the sky cloud sword art, which had the widest range of attack. The crimson spear light shot straight up, crazily twisting the airflow. Using the power of rotation, it formed a giant tornado. What was surprising was that this tornado contained fire origin energy, and its color was gradually dyed crimson, bringing with it a blazing heat as it swept out. Within a moment, those emerald green Zhenqi giant hands were all broken, and the tornado, which had shrunk a little bit, was still roaring towards Zhuang Fei. While the two were fighting, the scorching ancient desert was not peaceful at all. After Lin Wuxing and Wuxia were sent out of the desert, all the people from the top martial institutions started discussing with each other. As for the multiple mountain martial schools elders, their faces were all darkened. They were sure that it was almost impossible for Hong Qianjun to still be alive. Who killed Hong Qianjun? Is it a powerful hidden dragon-ranked martial artist? No matter who killed Hong Qianjun, once we find out who it is, we will kill him without mercy. The multiple mountain martial school's elder didn't lower his voice on purpose. Therefore, his words were clearly heard by all the other martial institutions. I can't believe that Hong Qianjun, ranked 69th in the hidden dragon ranked, has fallen. He was an early clasping Yuan realm martial artist. He was powerful enough to rival ordinary mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artists. To be honest, I really want to know who killed him. I think it was 80% likely that it was a powerful hidden dragon-ranked martial artist. Only they are powerful enough to kill him. The three ranked in the top 60 are the most likely suspects. Who are you? Wuxia, Xuehen and Yuan Hengying. Indeed, think about it, except for them, who else could kill Hong Qianjun? Even if the other hidden dragon-ranked martial artists were slightly more powerful, they might not be able to do it. On the Sky Cloud Martial School's side, Lu Hanshan let out a long breath and said, Wuxia and Ling Wuqing have come out, now only Brother Yi, Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying are left in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace. What took them so long? Is it that hard to break into the clasping Yuan realm? Zhu Mei and Su Jing were also confused. The head elder suddenly thought of something and said, did they pass all the tests and start to fight for the 3 treasures? Zhu Mei was shocked and said, passed all the tests. I remember that no one has done it for the past 100 years. Indeed, no one has done it for the past 100 years, but during the past 100 years, the current generation of young martial artists are the most talented ones. Therefore, it's not impossible for them to pass all the tests. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spent so much time, they should have come out long ago. The 4th elder said. Lu Hanshan nodded and asked, passing all the tests is extremely difficult, the 3 treasures in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace must be very precious, right? The head elder said, of course it's precious, the most powerful martial art of our Sky Cloud Martial School is the Great Rudra Divine Art, which was obtained by the 3rd generation leader of our Sky Cloud Martial School in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region over 100 years ago. No one except the leader or the leader's successor is qualified to learn it. The Great Rudra Divine Art was obtained from the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region. This was the first time for Lu Hanshan to hear about this. As for the power of the Great Rudra Divine Art, he had already witnessed it. With the help of his Zhen Qi, the Great Rudra Divine Art could evaporate a river without leaving a trace. A few Purple Sun Martial School elders kept glancing at the people from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Seeing their strange expressions, they couldn't help but guess. That swordsman from the Sky Cloud Martial School hasn't come out yet, did he die in there? I'm afraid it's not that simple. I've never heard that the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace would kill people on their own initiative. Therefore, he was either sent out, or stayed in there. But he hasn't come out yet, the answer is obvious. What I'm most worried about is that he has passed all the tests. If he has passed all the tests, the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace will open 3 treasures. These 3 treasures are invaluable, if he gets them, he might harm our Purple Sun Martial School. After all, the treasures that come out of the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace are the best of the best, they are even more precious than the same level treasures in the outside world. If it's a treasure, that's fine, but if it's a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art, it would definitely be a top-grade martial art of the Purple Sun Martial School, which is even more powerful than ordinary mid-rank Earth Realm martial arts. The face of the head elder of the Purple Sun Martial School turned darker and darker. This kid hasn't grown up yet, but he has already made us feel so uneasy. If we don't kill him, the Purple Sun Martial School will face a great disaster sooner or later. It seems that we have to send all the leaders of the hunting hall out, to make sure that we can kill him with a single strike. Indeed, Zhu Liang is already too weak, I'm afraid that he can't rival that kid. Inside the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace, Zhuang Fei was shocked. He didn't think that Yi Chen could still be so powerful after losing his sword. How is this possible? Is his sword intent really that powerful? Seeing the blood-red tornado roaring towards him along with beams of spear light, Zhuang Fei's intent of killing grew even stronger. He sensed a great threat from Yi Chen, which made him feel quite uncomfortable. Break! Zhen Qi swooshed up into the air, a silhouette of a mountain shrouded Zhuang Fei up. He remained motionless like a mountain, while his palms let out streams of river-like streams of power. Those streams of power were incomparably powerful, and even the airflow above the platform was punctured and exploded. What kind of martial art is this? Mountain, water, could it be the great art of mountain and water? Yi Chen had heard from the head elder that the first leader of the Emerald Martial Palace had found a broken piece of the great art of mountain and water, in the Mountain and Water Pavilion. The Great Art of Mountain and Water was a high-rank Earth Realm martial art, and even though it was just a broken piece, it was still a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art. Its power was not hard to imagine, it was definitely horrifying, even more powerful than the Great Rudra Magic Art of the Sky Cloud Martial School. The Crimson Tornado was dispersed, and the torrential palm energy rushed forward with an indomitable will. Yi Chen laughed out loud, he didn't seem to care about it. Unstable cloud. Limitless cloud. Sword of impermanence. Sword of mist. Using the spear as a sword, Yi Chen didn't step back, instead, he moved forward. While shaking the spear, he launched the sword movements of the shocking cloud sword art. Stimulated by his sword intent, countless spear lights were shot out. Not only did they cut open the torrential stream of palm power, they also hit on the silhouette of the mountain outside of Zhuang Fei's body. The silhouette of the mountain was shattered. Under the attack of Yi Chen's sword intent, Zhuang Fei's great art of mountain and water didn't work. After all, he had only reached the 8th level of the great art of mountain and water, which meant that he couldn't release the most powerful power of the great art of mountain and water. Moreover, before this, Yi Chen had broken Hong Qianjuan's great art of mountain and water, although it was extremely difficult for him to break it. Puff! Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Zhuang Fei yelled out, "Yuan Hengying, I know you're outside. Do you want to see us both get hurt?" Ha! Along with a creepy laughter, Yuan Hengying showed up in the room and said, "Zhuang Fei, I don't think you're qualified to fight against this little bastard. I'm afraid you can't stop him either." Zhuang Fei boosted up his Jin Qi and condensed the silhouette of the mountain again, temporarily stopping Yi Chen. Yi Chen's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had already found out that Yuan Hengying was outside, but he pretended that he didn't know, because he wanted to kill Zhuang Fei first. Yuan Hengying paused slightly. To be honest, he wasn't sure that he could stop Yi Chen. After he reached the clasping Yuan realm, Yi Chen's power was even more terrifying than his own. He was definitely a freak. However, the more powerful he was, the more he wanted to kill Yi Chen. He couldn't let him keep improving. "What do you mean? You and I will fight together." Yuan Hengying tried to test Zhuang Fei. Zhuang Fei said coldly, "Those who want to achieve great things don't care about trifles." Chapter 161. What a good, don't bother with trifles. But I really want to know, how should we divide the martial arts manuals? You and I will each take half, and we will keep the other half in our minds. What do you think? Alright, it's a deal. Yuan Hengying's body kept flashing, avoiding the ground fire. Zhenqi eagles shot out of his body one after another, flying towards Yi Chen who was on the platform. Seeing this, Zhuang Fei knew that Yuan Hengying had agreed, so he did not dare to hesitate. He pushed the Zhenqi in his meridians to its limit, making the silhouette of the mountain even more condensed and crystal-like. He then threw out streams of palm power that looked like rivers, which merged with the Zhenqi eagles and attacked fiercely. Today, you two have to leave something behind before you leave. Yi Chen did not back out. Instead, a sharp qi shot up into the sky, like a great sword that was about to be pulled out of its sheath and start a bloody massacre. Break! Driven by the powerful sword intent, the red flame on the iron spear suddenly extended out. It compressed and lengthened, eventually turning into a scorching red fire sword. The fire sword let out a long roar, and heavily hacked on the weak spot between the Zhenqi eagles and the palm power. Swoosh! A cloth-tearing sound was heard. The red fire sword was so powerful that it broke the combined attack of Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei with only one sword attack. Yuan Hengying, who had just stood on the platform, suddenly changed his expression. Yi Chen was even more powerful than he had expected. Using a spear as a sword, he was still able to block the combined attack of the two of them. If he had a low-rank great sword, he would not even need to fight anymore. Fortunately, a spear was a spear, it could never become a sword. Zhuang Fei, you don't have to hide anymore. If we don't use our final trump card, it's absolutely impossible to kill him. Our lives might even be in danger. While speaking, Yuan Hengying slightly spread his feet, and a dark cyan-colored Zhenqi burst out, forming a pair of gigantic eagle claws on both sides of his body. This pair of eagle claws was cyan with a hint of black, releasing an ancient evil power, which was extremely shocking. Flooding mountains. Hearing this, the shadow of the mountain outside of Zhuang Fei's body suddenly collapsed, turning into a torrential flood. The flood formed a spiral shape, surging around Zhuang Fei. Its momentum was astonishing, as if it would pounce out at any time and drown everything in its sight. It turned out that the mountain and water great art could not only be used for both offense and defense, but it could also be turned into a full offense or a full defense. The full offense was the flooding the mountain, which could turn the power of the mountain into a torrent of water and attack the enemy. However, although the full offense was powerful, its defense was quite weak. It was not much more powerful than a normal early clasping Yuan realm martial artist, and could easily be hit by unexpected attacks. As for the full defense, Zhuang Fei had not mastered it yet. He would need to reach the 9th level of the mountain and water great art, to be able to do it. Otherwise, his defense would not have been broken by Yi Chen with only one spear attack. Rumble. The two of them did not hold back in the slightest and immediately blasted out their strongest attacks. A gigantic eagle claw tore through the air, bringing with it a demonic aura as it grabbed towards Yi Chen. Then, a torrential palm energy surged forth, even more powerful than before. Bang, 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 the iron spear held in Yi Chen's hand was 2 and 3 meters long. Added with the red flame sword, it was 4 meters long. As Yi Chen waved his arm, the red flame sword turned into countless afterimages, hacking on the gigantic eagle claw and the powerful palm energy, bringing up thousands of fire sparks. After a while, Yi Chen abruptly shook off the eagle claw with one spear attack. The red flame sword on the iron spear fell off and darted towards Zhuang Fei like a shooting star. Damn it! Zhuang Fei was enraged. This was the moment when his defense was at its weakest. Once he was hit, he would die for sure. Without any time to think, he hurriedly threw out 2 streams of powerful palm energy towards the flame sword. Pop! Pop! The palm energy was pierced through one after another, and the flame sword was shattered as well. It turned into a fierce wave of fire that swallowed Zhuang Fei, burning him. Yuan Hengying seized the opportunity when Yi Chen was fighting against Zhuang Fei and was about to launch a fierce attack. Suddenly, an explosive power came from under his feet, which nearly sent him flying. Fortunately, he had already activated all of his Jin Qi, which allowed him to stomp on the ground and extinguish the explosive power. That was close. Yuan Hengying still had a lingering fear. Indeed, the explosive power couldn't hurt him, but it could push him off the platform. However, the platform was full of traps. If he was slightly careless, he would be burned by the ground fire, or killed, or teleported out of the heavenly dream battle palace. He didn't want to see either of these two things. Yi Chen also felt that it was a pity. The earth explosion that he had obtained from the bloody butcher was at a low level. It was a great help to him in the early stages, but now, it could only barely help him, and couldn't do anything to Yuan Hengying, who was protected by an earth realm martial art. Puff! The flame was torn apart, and Zhuang Fei walked out from it. Except for looking a bit embarrassed, he didn't seem to be injured at all. However, by now, the two of them were more and more shocked. Yi Chen was unbelievably powerful. He was fighting against 2 people at the same time, but he still had the upper hand. If it weren't for the fact that both of them had their own special skills, it would be hard for them to hold on. However, it was almost impossible for them to defeat Yi Chen with this kind of power. At this moment, Yi Chen's feet didn't leave the ground, and he launched the last movement of the Shocking Cloud sword art. Supreme Shocking Cloud. Holding the iron spear in his right hand, Yi Chen swung it straight down, silently and lightly, without even a trace of smoke or flame, as if he was brushing away the clouds with his bare hands. Pa! Thunder boomed. This spear seemed to be light, yet it released an extremely terrifying power. It was like a thunderbolt striking down on a sunny day, which made people feel like they were fighting against each other. Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying didn't even have the chance to dodge before they were hit by the red spear light. Their protective Jin Qi was shattered instantly, and they both puked out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying towards the platform. The pure white earth flame burst out, and the two of them disappeared instantly. On the platform, Yi Chen shook his head. It turned out that this earth flame couldn't kill people, it could only send people out. However, it was not the right time to kill the two of them. The current Sky Cloud Martial School couldn't afford to take this responsibility. After all, the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School and the Emerald Martial Palace were both rank 7 martial institutions, and were extremely powerful. Now that their top disciple had been killed, the leaders of the martial school would definitely not let it go. The light door in the cyan light opened again, and 2 human silhouettes flew out. Yuan Hengying, Zhuang Fei. The elders of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School and the Emerald Martial Palace Martial School both yelled out. However, when they saw the wounds on the two of them, and the large amount of blood coming out of their mouths and noses, they couldn't help but be stunned. Yuan Hengying, what happened? Who hurt you? The head elder of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School asked with a gloomy face. Head elder, let's talk when we get back. Yuan Hengying didn't want to tell the truth in front of everyone, it would be too embarrassing. 2 hidden dragon rank martial artists had been beaten by a young martial artist to the point of vomiting blood, and had almost died. No matter what, it was not a glorious thing, and it would greatly affect his reputation. On the other side, Zhuang Fei didn't want to talk about it either. On the Evil Blood Martial School's side, Wuxia was shocked. Yuan Hengying's power was not weaker than his, and Zhuang Fei was also a hidden dragon rank martial artist. How could they be wounded so badly? Could it be that they had fought against each other, and both of them were badly wounded? This was the most reasonable explanation. I wonder who has the rest of the treasures. Wuxia was a bit regretful. If he had known that there were only these 2 people, he might have tried to get the other 2 treasures, even if it was just one. The light door opened again, and another human silhouette flew out. Who else is in there? All the young hidden dragon rank martial artists should have come out by now. Could it be that he is the real culprit who injured Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei? All the elders from the top martial institutions started discussing, while the multiple mountain martial schools' elders popped their eyes out. They all hoped that it was Hong Qianjun, who had gone missing. People from the Sky Cloud Martial School were clearly aware that the last person was definitely Yi Chen. As for Hong Qianjun, he had been killed by Yi Chen long ago, and there was no such person anymore. Shoo! The silhouette stood on the sand, wearing a moon-white long robe. The unique cloud pattern of the Sky Cloud Martial School was embroidered on the sleeves. A disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Except for a small number of people, the others were all confused. They had all kinds of guesses, but none of them had ever thought that it would be a nameless disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Before this, none of them had ever heard of this person. No. He was the last one to come out, which meant that he had passed all the tests, participated in the competition for the 3 treasures, and came out unscathed. In that case, was Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei injured by this person? It shouldn't be possible. Some elders shook their heads. They didn't believe that the 2 young hidden dragon-ranked martial artists could be injured by this person, not even if they were beaten to death. A cold beam of light flashed across the multiple mountain martial school's head elder's eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Brother Yi, you're out. Lu Hanshan let out a sigh of relief. The competition for the 3 treasures was different than before. He didn't need to fight against the rest of the people, he was truly afraid that Yi Chen might have died in there. Yi Chen nodded, flashed across the air and arrived at the Sky Cloud Martial School's area. The head elder glanced at Yi Chen, smiled and said, "Are you all right?" Yi Chen glanced at Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying and said, "I'm all right, I got out unscathed." "Good, that's good." "Oh right, did you hurt Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying?" In fact, the head elder didn't really believe Yi Chen's words, but it was better for him to ask. Hesitating for a while, Yi Chen nodded again. "They were really hurt by you?" The other Sky Cloud Martial School's inner elders gasped in shock. Luo Hanshan laughed and said, "Brother Yi, you've stepped into the clasping Yuan realm, your power has improved tremendously. In a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be surprising for you to injure Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying, but it would be strange if you couldn't beat them." He thought that Yi Chen had beaten Zhuang Fei and Yuan Hengying respectively. He didn't really believe it. He thought that the elders were making a fuss about nothing. The head elder was slightly surprised, but soon calmed himself down. He realized that Yi Chen had already attained the sword intent, and had also stepped into the clasping Yuan realm. His power had definitely improved by leaps and bounds. It wouldn't be a big deal for him to beat the last hidden dragon-ranked martial artists. Without any accidents, Yi Chen would definitely have a place in the next hidden dragon rank competition in a year and a half, and no one would be able to stop him. Kid, have you seen the top-ranked disciple of our multiple mountain martial school, Hong Qianjun?" At this moment, a voice came from the multiple mountain martial school's head elder. Seeing that Yi Chen was the last one to come out, he immediately became suspicious. He felt that Yi Chen was the biggest suspect. He immediately walked towards Yi Chen step by step, while releasing a strong sense of power. Luo Hanshan's facial expression changed. Chapter 162. Yi Chen had activated his sword intent, so he wasn't affected by the pressure released from the multiple mountain martial school's power. He responded calmly, "I don't know him." "Nonsense. Our multiple mountain martial school's top-ranked disciple, Hong Qianjun, is a young hidden dragon-ranked martial artist. How could you not know him? Did you sneakily attack him and kill him?" "Head elder, no need to say more, let's take him back to the multiple mountain martial school. Indeed, I don't believe that he can still talk like this under the torture. Cripple this kid first." The multiple mountain martial school's elders were all filled with killing intent. Even if Yi Chen wasn't the murderer, they still wouldn't let him go. "Since when did you multiple mountain martial school have the right to bully our Sky Cloud martial school's disciples?" A strong sense of power rose from the air, along with which, the Sky Cloud martial school's head elder slowly walked out. Although his pair of wrinkled eyes were slightly blurry, they were still as sharp as steel needles. Hearing the head elder, an inner elder of the multiple mountain martial school said scornfully, "What is your Sky Cloud martial school's status?" "What is our multiple mountain martial school's status?" "Now, your Sky Cloud martial school's disciple is suspected of killing our top-ranked disciple, so we have to take him back. No one can stop us. I advise you, you'd better cooperate with us, don't bring trouble to our Sky Cloud martial school, or you'll regret it." The Sky Cloud martial school's fourth elder and the head elder stood side by side, with their eyes popped out in anger. What a joke. If you take Yi Chen away today, our Sky Cloud martial school's reputation would be ruined. Don't even think about it. Whoever dares to touch him, we'll kill him. The multiple mountain martial school's head elder snorted coldly while releasing a great sense of power, which even caused the desert surface to sink. "You. Kill you as easy as killing a dog. Kid, come over." Swoosh. After saying that, he waved his hand and released a terrifying suction force. The sand around Yi Chen was sucked into the suction force, while Yi Chen felt weightless and couldn't control his own body anymore. Cut. A fiery red sword condensed on the iron spear and hacked at the air in front of Yi Chen along with an unstoppable sword intent, cutting off the suction force. The multiple mountain martial school's head elder knitted his eyebrows, pulled his right hand back and released the suction force again. This time, the suction force was twice as strong as before, and even the 10-meter deep sand was rolled up. "You're going too far. Freeze." The head elder of the Sky Cloud martial school was furious. He took a step forward and released his Jin Qi, locking onto the space where Yi Chen was. No matter how strong the suction force was, it was impossible for him to move. "You're courting death." A khaki-colored, gigantic palm made of Jin Qi suddenly darted out, smashing towards the Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder. Wherever it passed by, the sand surface would be blasted out layer by layer, and huge, tens of meters thick and tens of meters tall sand pillars would rise into the air. The multiple mountain martial school's head elder was the first one to launch the attack. He had cast the same mountain-shattering stamp as Hong Qianjun had cast. However, in his hands, this mountain-collapsing seal was many times more powerful than Hong Qianjun's. With a single palm strike, it was powerful enough to shatter mountains and crack the earth. Purple light cave heaven. The great elder's clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. He slightly lowered his center of gravity and pointed out a finger that seemed slow but was actually fast. Puchi. The purple ray of light condensed and pierced through the huge palm made of khaki-colored Jinqi, making a sizzling sound. Look! The multiple mountain martial school and the Sky Cloud martial school are fighting. The multiple mountain martial school is so arrogant. They haven't even proved that it was the Sky Cloud martial school's disciple who killed Hong Qianjun, yet they want to take him back. Clearly, they don't take the Sky Cloud martial school seriously. Exactly. They've already taken him back. Even if he doesn't die, he'll still have to be tortured to make a confession. The Multiple Mountain Martial School is a rank 7 martial institution from the White Mystery Nation, a mid-tier country. They are very powerful, and have always been arrogant. The Sky Cloud Martial School can only blame their bad luck for offending them. I think the Sky Cloud Martial School is going to fail this time. A peerless genius emerged from a rank 9 martial institution, it's inevitable that people will be jealous of him. The Multiple Mountain Martial School might have the same thought. To be honest, even I am jealous of him. That move he launched just now, which cut off the suction force, clearly contained the sword intent. That's why he was able to pass all the tests of the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace and compete for the 3 treasures. The other elders were either angry or scared, but most of them were jealous. Why didn't their martial institutions have a peerless genius who had comprehended the sword intent? Move. Kill. How dare you go against our Multiple Mountain Martial School? This time, the Multiple Mountain Martial School had sent 11 inner elders and tens of outer elders, all of whom were above the mid-clasping Yuan realm. Seeing the head elder and the Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder, they couldn't hold back their killing intent and rushed out. Everyone from the Sky Cloud Martial School, kill. The 4th elder roared out while a raging flame rose from his body, scorching the sand and turning it into black crystals. 4th elder, take this spear. Yi Chen's blood was boiling inside his body, but his mind was still clear. No matter in terms of overall power or individual power, the Multiple Mountain Martial School's head elder was more powerful than him. Fortunately, although the Sky Cloud Martial School was a rank 9 martial institution, it was as powerful as a rank 8 martial institution. Compared to the Multiple Mountain Martial School, which was a rank 7 martial institution, the Sky Cloud Martial School wouldn't be a pushover. Yi Chen knew that the 4th elder was a cultivator of fire Jinqi, and the low-ranked spear was perfect for him. Without thinking, he threw the spear towards the 4th elder. Low-ranked spear. The 4th elder caught the spear with one hand and immediately sensed the great fire power contained in the spear. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. There were many treasures in this world, but unfortunately, there were even more martial artists. Not every clasping Yuan realm martial artist had a good treasure, and the 4th elder was one of them. Now that he had a low-ranked spear in his hand, he wouldn't even be afraid of peak-level late clasping Yuan realm martial artists. Boom! The spear swung horizontally, releasing a scorching red flame that transformed into a sky-devouring wave of fire. It immediately pushed back the 2 Multiple Mountain Martial School's inner elders, who had been rushing towards him. 7th elder, 9th elder, the short blade and the dagger are for you. The 7th elder and the 9th elder were experts in using blades and assassinations respectively. The low-ranked short blade and dagger given by Leng Wuqing were perfect for them. Therefore, Yi Chen gave them to the 2 elders one by one. 3 low-ranked treasures. You have to know that only a few of us elders have treasures. Only a few of us have found treasures that are suitable for us from the treasuries of our institutions. Those that are not suitable for us won't improve our powers at all. For example, if you ask a sword user to use a blade, even if it's a low-ranked great blade, it won't be as good as an ordinary great sword. It's very hard to find a suitable treasure. Many people use them for their whole lives. All the onlookers popped up their eyes and gasped in shock. Last time in the Northwest auction house, the reason why Lynch was able to buy the low-ranked great blade, the air-splitting blade, was that the elder who used blades didn't want to compete with them. After all, Lynch would definitely become the backbone of the North Snow Martial Academy in the future. Therefore, the elder of the North Snow Martial Academy had to show some respect to him. Although the other elders didn't have to show respect to Lynch, if they went to the auction house, the elder of the North Snow Martial Academy would definitely go as well. If they bought the air-splitting blade, they would still give it to Lynch as a reward. Therefore, unless it was a big auction where all the treasures were gathered, the elders would rarely show up. Only in small auctions would the disciples from all the top institutions compete with each other. Good blade. Good dagger. The eyes of the 7th elder and the 9th elder shone, and they both showed a faint smile. In fact, Yi Chen still had a low-ranked great blade, but it was in his storage ring, which was still in the head elder's storage ring. Therefore, no matter what, he couldn't disturb the head elder. In a battle between powerful martial artists, a slight carelessness could result in the defeat of the head elder. Without a doubt, it would be a huge blow to the head elder, who was the backbone of the group, in order to take out a low-ranked great blade. Yi Chen knew what he should do. The battle between the two institutions started. Nearly 100 mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artists and above had been fighting against each other. It was a spectacular scene. However, only 1/3 of them had low-ranked great weapons, while the others were either bare-handed or only had ordinary weapons. What they were fighting against was their mastery of martial arts. Little brat, die. All of a sudden, an elder of the multiple mountain martial school leapt towards Yi Chen and threw a kick towards him. Boom! The ground collapsed, layer after layer of cracks appeared on the ground. Without a sword, Yi Chen madly activated the crane shadow steps and stepped back. He didn't dare to take the attack head-on. Where do you think you're going? This elder was the multiple mountain martial school's outer head elder. He was a peak-level mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artist, only one step away from becoming an inner head elder. Under his full power, Yi Chen, who didn't have a sword in his hand, was no match for him at all. Brother Yi, take this. Zhu Mei saw that Yi Chen was in a bad situation, so she hurriedly threw her low-ranked great sword, the hidden fragrance sword, to Yi Chen. As for Su Jing, who had always been aggressive, she didn't join the fight. Instead, she stood in front of Zhu Mei and Luo Hanshan, in case any sneak attacks from the multiple mountain martial school's elders might launch. Yi Chen seemed to have eyes on the back of his head, he didn't even need to look at Zhu Mei and Luo Hanshan. He gripped the hilt of the hidden fragrance sword. Nice sword. In fact, the effect of a great weapon was limited, it could at most increase the attacking power by 10%, but it wouldn't be able to change the overall situation. However, the most important thing about a great weapon was its toughness, which made it very hard to break. The higher a martial artist's cultivation was, the more powerful his Jin Qi would be. Ordinary weapons could no longer withstand the circulation of Jin Qi, and would be broken after a few times of use. Once a martial artist reached the astral reaching realm, his Jin Qi would transform into Jin Yuan, and any ordinary weapon would shatter upon contact with it. Only low-ranked great weapons could barely allow astral reaching realm martial artists to fully activate their Jin Yuan, and mid-ranked great weapons would be the best. So what if you have a low-ranked great sword? You will still die. The multiple mountain martial school's outer head elder grinned. While in the air, he launched 18 kicks in a row. Each kick was as heavy as a small mountain, smashing down towards Yi Chen. Swirling wind. The hidden fragrance sword was slim and long. It wasn't suitable for Yi Chen, but it was still much better than the low-ranked Great Spear and the hidden Cloud Sword. He gripped the sword with his right hand and swung it, leaving a beautiful arc in the air. Swoosh, 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 the sharp and long sword chi swooshed straight up, stirred up the airflow in the desert, and finally formed a huge tornado. The tornado sucked the sand into it, then transformed into an even more terrifying tornado, rumbling towards the 18 mountain-like silhouettes of Yi Chen's legs. Boom! Yellow sand poured down from the sky, the tornado was shattered, and the 18 silhouettes of Yi Chen's legs also disappeared. Lose. With the hidden fragrance sword in his hand, the sharp chi on his body was unstoppable. It was like a peerless great sword that had been sharpened, tearing apart the atmosphere. His tornado-broken clouds had been shattered, but he did not care at all. Tapping his foot on the ground, he floated in the air like a cloud. Then, the hidden fragrance sword slashed down without any trace of attack. It's that move. Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei were both frightened. They were both defeated by this move, they didn't even have the chance to fight back. Chapter 163. Crackle. Thunder exploded as sword chi shot out. This sword strike was incredibly fast. Under the shocked gaze of the multiple mountain martial school's head elder, the sword strike landed heavily on the defensive Jinqi layer. Puff! His protective Jinqi shattered, and blood splattered everywhere. How is this possible? Pointing his finger at Yi Chen, the multiple mountain martial school's head elder spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't believe that he couldn't even take a single sword attack from Yi Chen. Not only that, he couldn't even defend himself against his Jinqi. Yi Chen was only an early clasping Yuan realm martial artist. Even if he was a genius, he shouldn't have been able to defeat him so easily. As he spoke, he once again spat out a mouthful of blood that contained remnants of sword chi. He retreated with heavy injuries and had already lost the ability to continue fighting. Yi Chen sneered. Even Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei together couldn't take this sword attack, not to mention a single person. However, the opponent was indeed very powerful. He could actually take a sword attack and not die. Sword Chi Thunder. Sword Chi actually produced thunder. How fast would it take to do that? He is only an early clasping Yuan realm warrior, how could he perform his sword art to such a level? Is it because of the sword intent? That must be the case. Only sword intent can greatly increase the power of sword arts. Both speed and power will be greatly increased. Most of the onlookers were sect elders, so their eyesight was very good. They could tell that this sword was unusual at a glance. Unbeknownst to them, the one who was even more shocked was the Sky Cloud Martial School's elder, who was still fighting. This is the highest level of the startling cloud sword art, thunderous sword chi. I am ashamed. I have also trained the shocking cloud sword art, but I have not reached the level of sword chi thunder yet. This kid is indeed a genius of the Sky Cloud Martial School. It is worth it to fight for him. Even if I die here, I will still be contributing to the school. That's right, this kid is the biggest hope of our Sky Cloud Martial School. Killing him is the same as destroying the foundation of our Sky Cloud Martial School. We cannot let him go. Kill. 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 Yi Chen's power had motivated many of the Sky Cloud Martial School's elders. All of their auras had been boosted, and their fighting power had increased to the next level, surpassing their own limits. Not good, the opponent's aura is rising. Quickly suppress it, we can't let them take the initiative. The group of multiple mountain martial schools elders had been in an absolute advantage, but within the blink of an eye, that advantage was gone. On the contrary, they were caught unprepared by the counterattack, and were thrown into confusion. It's that brat Yi Chen's doing. You guys go kill him. If we don't get rid of this kid, he'll be another great enemy in the future. The multiple mountain martial school only had one more inner elder than the Sky Cloud Martial School. Therefore, they couldn't free themselves from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Therefore, a few powerful outer elders were sent out to fight against Yi Chen. Despicable. The fourth elder swung his spear and pushed away the two multiple mountain martial school's inner elders, intending to help Yi Chen. Where are you going? With the low-grade great spear, the fourth elder's power was second only to the Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder. At this moment, an inner elder of the multiple mountain martial school, who was even more powerful than the Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder, blocked his way. The other multiple mountain martial school's head elder didn't stay idle either, they started fighting against each other. Within a radius of over 10 miles, sand and dust instantly rose into the air while fierce airwaves spread out in all directions. He became famous after this battle. Lang Wuxing smiled faintly, while the other barbarian devil martial school's disciples were confused. They didn't know what had happened to their big brother, who had always been cold and cruel. Indeed, after this battle, Yi Chen had become famous in the 9 nations. As time went by, his fame might even spread to the other nations in the South Zhuo region. Injuring the multiple mountain martial school's head elder with a single sword move, even many young hidden dragon-ranked martial artists couldn't do this. Before this, Yi Chen was only a nameless kid. In the Emerald Martial School, Lu Wuxiang and Ji Xueyan were both stunned. Yi Chen's speed of growth made them feel powerless for the first time. Was this what people meant by one brilliant feat, one brilliant feat? But, this was way too amazing. Facing the 3 multiple mountain martial school's outer elders, Yi Chen neither stepped back nor dodged. Instead, he said with a resonant voice, 3 is too few, you can't even withstand a single strike. How dare you? Arrogant. Today, I will make you bleed. The 3 multiple mountain martial school's outer elders were enraged. In terms of power, they were no weaker than the multiple mountain martial school's head elder. The 3 of them together were more than powerful enough to kill Yi Chen. But at this moment, they were underestimated by Yi Chen. Their killing intent and Zhen Qi surged out uncontrollably, bringing up clouds of sand. Mountain-shattering stamp. Shadow-cutting 10 moves. Xiantian Qi art. The 3 Sky Martial School's outer elders each launched their most powerful martial arts, sending out waves of fierce qi and blade power towards Yi Chen. Instantly, terrifying marks were left on the surface of the sand. Swirling clouds. Yi Chen had never been the type of person who would stick to the old rules. He would always add his own things into his sword movements. This sword movement originally used the sword qi to twist the qi flow and form a tornado to attack the enemy. However, he had led himself into it and stood in the eye of the tornado, which was the calmest area. Outside the tornado, Yi Chen had a natural layer of defense. Along with the tornado, Yi Chen released streams of sword qi towards the 3 Sky Martial School's outer elders. Puff! 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 Streams of sword qi darted out, covering the entire sky. More terrifyingly, after being spun by the tornado, not only did the sword qi move from a tricky angle, but the power was also terrifying. Ah! One of the multiple mountain martial school's outer elders was careless, his arm was cut off by Yi Chen's sword qi. Retreat! Retreat! The other 2 Sky Martial School's outer elders' attacks were broken as well, and they hurriedly retreated. The crowd had already become numb to this, they didn't even know how to express their feelings. Someone sighed and said, "This kid's fighting style is amazing, he can do whatever he wants. He will definitely become a great warrior in the future, but of course, the premise is that he can live until then." Disciples ranked in the top 50 or top 30 of the Hidden Dragon ranking have already grown up, they are no longer afraid of the older generation's powerful martial artists. If we give this kid some more time, he will be able to reach that level as well. That's a bit presumptuous. Once you reach the clasping Yuan realm, it will be more and more difficult for you to improve your cultivation. Therefore, you won't be able to improve your power by leaps and bounds, unless you have a great opportunity. You're right, the Heavenly Dream ancient region can barely be counted as an open opportunity, otherwise, how could they step into the clasping Yuan realm so easily? The true spirit continent was vast and boundless, no one knew how many millions of miles it was, and the population of this continent was in the trillions. Even if there was only one genius among 10 million people, there would still be millions of geniuses. With so many geniuses, not everyone could become a peerless powerful martial artist. Once one's potential was exhausted, he or she would have no choice but to focus on his or her own cultivation. However, the path of a martial artist was a path that defied the natural order. Time waits for no one. Once you accumulated enough potential, you wouldn't have enough time to continue your cultivation anymore. But of course, there would always be a small number of people who were extremely lucky. Before they exhausted their potential, they would have great opportunities to improve their power by leaps and bounds, and become peerless powerful martial artists. For example, Xianhou had stepped into the life and death realm at the age of 35, and became one of the most powerful martial artists in this continent. She was as powerful as Su King, Dragon King, Evil King and the others. She had a lifespan of over 1,000 years, and could even regrow her body from a single drop of blood. Therefore, opportunities were an indispensable part of becoming a powerful martial artist. Almost no one could reach this level without an opportunity, and if there were, it would be an opportunity for him or herself, and his or her potential would be limitless. After all, every human had a limit to their potential, and if an unlimited potential wasn't an opportunity, then what was? Limitless shocking cloud. Limitless shocking cloud. One sword of impermanence. As Yi Chen launched the moves of the shocking cloud sword art one after another, the three multiple mountain martial school's outer elders, who had been approaching aggressively, were forced back again and again, their bodies covered in blood. Seeing that the three of them were about to lose their lives, one of the three outer elders suddenly took out a dark red iron bomb from his storage ring, while his face twisted. How despicable! Not only did they try to bully us with numbers, they even took out a red light fire melting bomb. They have completely humiliated the multiple mountain martial school. This kid is very dangerous. That red light fire melting bomb can kill ordinary peak-level early clasping Yuan realm martial artists, and even mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artists would be severely injured by it. Once he is severely injured, he would be in real danger. Many elders of the multiple mountain martial school were disdainful of that man's evil means, but they didn't think that Yi Chen would be killed by that red light fire melting bomb. Geniuses always had their own ways to protect themselves, but that was exactly the problem. Once Yi Chen was severely injured by that red light fire melting bomb, the tables would be turned instantly. Die. The multiple mountain martial school's outer elder's face was twisted with a hideous look. He injected his Jin Qi into the red light fire melting bomb, then threw it out towards Yi Chen. Boom! A raging flame exploded, covering a wide area. Even with Yi Chen's great speed, he couldn't dodge all of the flames, and was struck by the flames on the edge of the explosion, which sent him flying backwards. Brother Yi! The faces of Zhu Mei and the other two elders turned pale. The faces of the fourth elder and the other two elders turned pale. Swoosh! Standing lightly on the desert, Yi Chen gave a faint smile and said, "Is this all you've got? Then you will die for sure." What? He's not injured. How is this possible? The red light fire melting bomb is made with the fire power from the stunning sky. Although its power is largely reduced, it shouldn't be completely unharmed. The multiple mountain martial school's outer elder, who threw out the bomb, couldn't believe his own eyes. He said to the other two elders beside him, "Before we came here, the school gave each of us a red light fire melting bomb. Don't save them, throw them all out and kill him." Back in the 9 nations, the multiple mountain martial school and a few other institutions had discovered an ancient site together. Quite a lot of red light fire melting bombs were found in the site, and they had divided them among themselves. However, there was no way to make these red light fire melting bombs, even astral reaching realm martial artists couldn't make them. If it weren't for the fact that they were escorting their elite disciples to the Heaven Dream Ancient region, they wouldn't have been able to get a red light fire melting bomb each. After all, the school had basically given out all the red light fire melting bombs to them, and they were told not to use them unless it was a critical moment. Alright, I don't believe that we can't kill him. They had already lost all of their dignity, and the only thing they could think of at the moment was to kill Yi Chen. Boom! Another 2 thunderous booms were heard. Dazzling flames overlapped with each other and spread out even further. With the crane shadow step, Yi Chen avoided the center of the explosion, and was only hit by the aftershock of the explosion. At this moment, a crystal-like Zhen Qi shield suddenly lit up around his body. Pop! The Zhen Qi shield was twisted, and the horrifying impact force sent him flying away. Ordinary Zhen Qi shields can never have such a strong defensive power, and it doesn't look like a defensive martial art. Is it a low-rank great armor? That's possible. Low-rank great armors are relatively precious among low-rank great weapons. Although they can't improve the defensive power by much, even a little bit would be invaluable. Besides, he wasn't hit directly by the red light fire melting bomb, instead, he was hit by the aftershock of the explosion. That's why he didn't get injured at all. These people were all experienced and knowledgeable, they had figured out that Yi Chen was wearing a low-rank great armor. Low-rank great armors could improve the defensive power, which was more or less useful. Chapter 164. The sand surface collapsed as Yi Chen landed heavily on the ground. He reached out his hand and touched his chest. Underneath his clothes, it was hard, smooth and cold. Just as everyone had guessed, he was indeed wearing a low-rank armor. This low-rank armor was obtained from Len Wuxia, and it was one of the more precious treasures. With this low-rank great armor, when Yi Chen activated his protective Zhen Qi, his defensive power had increased by 15%. However, this was still not enough to block the explosion of the red light fire melting bomb, he had to stay away from the center of the explosion. After all, the low-rank great armor could only improve his defensive power, it couldn't protect him from everything. Die! Rising into the air, Yi Chen gently swung his sword and launched the last movement of the Sky Cloud Sword Art. Along with a thunderous sound, the three's protective Zhen Qi was shattered. Except for the most powerful one, the other 2 fell on the ground, no one knew if they were still alive or not. Hu! Letting out a long breath, Yi Chen threw a medicinal pill into his mouth. He didn't chase after the other 2. Although he was an early clasping Yuan realm martial artist, his cultivation was way too low. After such a great battle, he didn't have much Zhen Qi left. Fortunately, he had some medicinal pills to replenish his Zhen Qi, otherwise, he would be in great danger. In the 2 battles, 2 outer elders of the multiple mountain martial school were severely injured, and the other 2 were still alive. Wuxia and the other hidden dragon-ranking martial artists were all stunned, silently wondering what their chances of winning would be if they were the ones fighting against Yi Chen. However, the result was very unfavorable to them, they had almost no chance of winning, even if they used their most powerful life-saving skills, they wouldn't be able to win. This guy is way too scary. Even the multiple mountain martial school's head elder couldn't rival him. Doesn't this mean that he's going to suppress me forever? I'm so pissed off. Yuan Hengying sat on the ground with his legs crossed, trying to heal himself. However, his injuries couldn't be healed within a short period of time, it would take at least 2 to 3 months. During this period, he would have to take all kinds of precious medicinal pills to replenish his Yuan Qi, otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to regain his peak power. Thinking of the power of that sword move, Yuan Hengying couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. Back then, he had already used his most powerful skill, but still failed to block it. Hengying, this brat injured you, the Heavenly Eagle Castle's first elder suddenly asked. Yuan Hengying really didn't want to admit it, but judging from the current situation, it didn't matter whether he admitted it or not. In everyone's eyes, he was definitely not as good as Yi Chen, so it was reasonable for him to be injured by him. Thinking up to this point, he nodded heavily and said with a cold face, "Zhuang Fei and I were both injured by him, and he took away our secret manuals as well. We will pay for this sooner or later." The headmaster of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School was expressionless. "You should take care of your body first. As for revenge, don't even think about it for 1 or 2 years, unless you can reach the mid-clasping Yuan realm. Besides, the next Hidden Dragon rank competition will start in 1.5 years. You should focus on your training. I can't accept this. I won't be able to vent my anger if I don't kill him. It's not up to you to kill him. The higher-ups of the Ziyang house will not let him continue to grow. It was like this 20 years ago, and it will be like this 20 years later." Yuan Henging frowned. Purple Sun Martial School. That's right. 20 years ago, the Sky Cloud Martial School was a top rank 8 martial institution, only slightly weaker than rank 7 martial institutions, while the Purple Sun Martial School was a top rank 8 martial institution. Their overall power was not as strong as the Sky Cloud Martial School. When they surrounded the remaining forces of the 9 evil cult, the Purple Sun Martial School used a trick to deceive the Sky Cloud Martial School, causing the warriors of the Sky Cloud Martial School to be surrounded by the powerful warriors of the 9 evil cult. After that, the Sky Cloud Martial School couldn't swallow this, so they also used a scheme to kill the current leader of the Purple Sun Martial School and a few top inner elders. Headmaster, are you saying that the Ziyang Martial School does not want to see the Sky Cloud Martial School surpass them? Of course. After all, the Sky Cloud Martial School has a great foundation. Powerful warriors can be cultivated slowly. 5 years ago, the Sky Cloud Martial School had already regained the power of a rank 8 martial institution. Besides, with the help of the Great Master, the other martial institutions would not dare to make any reckless moves. But now, the Sky Cloud Martial School has a young powerful Hidden Dragon ranked martial artist. The Ziyang Martial School will not be able to eat or sleep in peace. They will definitely try everything they can to kill him. Hearing this, Yuan Henging was a bit annoyed. He really wanted to kill Yi Chen himself, but Yi Chen was unimaginably powerful. He would only die if he tried to kill him. You are going to die anyway, I don't need to do it myself. Let's see who will laugh in the end. Boom. 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 Each of the multiple mountain martial school's outer elders had a red light fire bomb. After fighting for quite a while, seeing that they couldn't kill their opponents within a short time, they all threw out their red light fire bombs. Immediately, 3 outer elders of the Sky Cloud Martial School didn't manage to dodge in time and were hit right on the head. They were blown to death and fell down from the air. Do you think only you have weapons? We have them too, blow them up. Some outer elders of the Sky Cloud Martial School took out dark cyan iron bombs from their storage rings, found an opportunity and threw them out. Pop! Silver lightning bolts dazzled in the air, along with which, a few outer elders of the multiple mountain martial school fell down from the air. The Sky Cloud Martial School actually has a silver light thunderbolt bomb, how unexpected. The silver light thunderbolt bomb is as famous as the red light fire bomb. It is made from the thunder power of the stunning sky, which is the first level of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Once thrown out, it is powerful enough to blow up a small mountain. Quite a few outer elders of both sides have died since the beginning of the battle, but none of the inner elders have died. But as time goes by, I'm not sure. It was rare to see a fight between 2 top-ranked institutions, therefore, the crowd didn't want to leave. Instead, they were all discussing the fight with different expressions on their faces. Mountain Condensed Sword Chi. After swallowing the pill, Yi Chen rushed out without waiting for the multiple mountain martial school's elders to attack him. But of course, he wasn't stupid, he wouldn't go to the areas where there were more inner elders. Instead, he chose the areas where the outer elders gathered, and released his soul power to cover a range of 500 meters, in case any multiple mountain martial school's inner elders chased after him. With a single sword move, Yi Chen broke the defense of a multiple mountain martial school's outer elder and killed him for good. Yi Chen frowned. The Sky Cloud Martial School was in a bad situation. Among the outer elders, both sides had some winners and losers, and the casualties were almost the same. As for the inner elders, they were all from the multiple mountain martial school, and had already firmly suppressed the Sky Cloud Martial School. Sadly, Yi Chen wasn't powerful enough to deal with an inner elder of the multiple mountain martial school, not to mention affecting the overall situation. If this goes on, the Sky Cloud Martial School will be in danger. I need to find a way to sneakily attack an inner elder of the multiple mountain martial school. Yi Chen moved to the place where the outer elders were fighting. He glanced around and soon found his target. His opponent was at the outer edge of the place where the inner elders were fighting. His opponent was the Sky Cloud Martial School's ninth elder. The ninth elder was good at assassination, but he was much weaker in a head-on battle. If it weren't for his low-ranked dagger and his extremely fast movement skill, he would have already been severely injured or even killed. That's him. Both sides had the same number of inner elders, therefore, an inner elder could be very useful. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have come up with this plan. The heart refining. The last movement of the Sky Cloud Sword Art was incredibly powerful, but it was still not as powerful as the heart refining. The heart refining would become more powerful as Yi Chen grew stronger, and the sword intent would also grow stronger. Therefore, it wouldn't be outdated even if he used it at the astral reaching realm. Yi Chen's swiftly moving body abruptly stopped. He paused in the air, then swung his sword down. Puff! The sword chi transformed into a beam of white light, darting out at a speed faster than the sound of thunder. Puff! The protective Zhen Qi of that multiple mountain martial school's inner elder was sliced open, and a sword mark appeared on his back. He let out a shrill growl. Kid, I will never forgive you. Boom! He turned around and launched another hack. A tens of meters long stream of blade chi was released, which looked like a thunderbolt. Only the lingering power released by the blade chi had already left a deep ditch on the desert surface. Yi Chen, be careful. The ninth elder didn't have enough time to save Yi Chen, so he had no choice but to take advantage of the opportunity created by Yi Chen. Mountain Condensed Sword Chi. When the sword strike landed on the 9 mountain martial school's inner elder, Yi Chen had already prepared himself for it. Therefore, although the blade chi was fast, he still reacted to the incoming attack with a mountain-thick sword chi. Crack, 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 the mountain condensed sword chi was more than one hack. Under the support of Yi Chen's Zhen Qi, the power of the blade chi was quickly consumed. Once the sword chi was completely shattered, the remaining blade chi was no longer a threat, and was shattered by Yi Chen with a single punch. Boom! While Yi Chen had created an opportunity, an inner elder of the Sky Cloud Martial School had been sent flying away, vomiting blood. Seeing this, Yi Chen had no choice but to rush to the other side. Right now, he and the Sky Cloud Martial School's people were bound together. Once those elders were defeated, he wouldn't be able to survive either. Therefore, he might as well put up a desperate fight. However, right at this moment, something unexpected happened. The Rudra Martial School's head elder was a beautiful woman. Seeing that the Emerald Martial Palace hadn't done anything yet, she slightly frowned. She then flashed and appeared in the middle of the crowd. People, this fight is not necessary at all. Let's stop now. Hearing her, an inner elder of the multiple mountain martial school sneered and said, "Who do you think you are? This is our multiple mountain martial school's business, it's none of your business." By now, they had already gained an absolute advantage. It was only a matter of time before they could defeat the Sky Cloud Martial School's people. They didn't think that someone would step in, which made them even angrier. Among the crowd, the Purple Sun Martial School's head elder's face darkened, he snorted coldly and said, the Rudra martial school has only been developing for over 10 years. How can they be so reckless? Just let the Sky Cloud martial school die. The hatred between the Purple Sun martial school and the Sky Cloud martial school started 20 years ago. Therefore, the Purple Sun martial school's head elder couldn't wait to see the Rudra martial school's head elder die. The Rudra martial school's head elder's face was as cold as ice. He took out a tablet from his storage ring. The tablet was a foot long, 2-inch thick, entirely glowing with a cyan light. A fierce cyan dragon was embossed on the surface of the tablet, coiling around it, making it look even more majestic. People, are you still not going to stop? The multiple mountain martial school's head elder glanced at the tablet in the Rudra martial school's head elder's hand. His facial expression changed dramatically. He said word by word, "Little Azure Dragon Tablet, how come you have it? You don't need to worry about this. Just remember who the owner of this tablet is," said the Rudra martial school's head elder coldly. The multiple mountain martial school's head elder's face darkened. He growled, "Multiple mountain martial school, stop." "What? Why stop?" "Head elder, we're about to defeat them." Many multiple mountain martial school's outer elders didn't understand what was going on. Only the inner elders seemed to have thought of something. Their facial expressions changed as well. Chapter 165. Although they didn't want to, they still stopped and gathered around the multiple mountain martial school's head elder. Although the number of the Sky Cloud martial school's head elder was 1/6 less than before, the casualties weren't that great. Of course, the Sky Cloud martial school's people wouldn't chase after them. Instead, they all went back and stood behind the head elder. Between the two groups of Sky Cloud martial school's head elder was a mess, and tens of dead bodies were lying on the ground. At this moment, the onlookers had already burst into an uproar when they saw the tablet in the Rudra martial school's head elder's hand. How could it be in the hands of a rank 8 martial school, the South Rudra martial school? The owner of the Little Azure Dragon tablet is not that scary. What's important is his powerful background. Yeah, the Little Azure Dragon tablet appeared in the South Shore region. It's probably not that simple. We have to warn the others when we get back. Tell them not to mess with the South Shore region's disciples or elders. Anyone who dares to do so will be killed. Exactly, in case they do something terrible and bring disaster to the Rudra martial school's head elder. The Purple Sun martial school's head elder widely opened his eyes, staring at the cyan tablet in the Rudra martial school's head elder's hand. The cyan dragon coiled around the tablet was releasing clouds of mist, and it was coldly looking at the world with its cyan eyes, as if it could see through people's hearts and souls. How is this possible? She is the descendant of that. What does she want in the Windy Nation? He wasn't thinking about the Rudra martial school's head elder, but the leader of the Rudra martial school, Long Bai. This mysterious woman had finally revealed her true face. No wonder the Rudra martial school could rise so fast and become one of the top 5 martial institutions in the Windy Nation over 10 years ago. She is the descendant of that. In this case, the revival of the 9 evil cult was all within his expectation, and he had been preparing for it since 10 years ago. The Sky Cloud martial school's head elder slowly let out a breath. The 4th elder said worriedly, "Originally, I thought that the remaining forces of the 9 evil cult were only left with a few small and big cats. But now, it seems like that is not the case at all. Otherwise, that person wouldn't have arranged for more than 10 years ago to be on guard against this day." The head elder nodded and changed his tone. "We are only a rank 9 martial institution. Even though we are as powerful as rank 8 martial institutions, we are nothing but ants in their eyes. Therefore, we just need to do what we are supposed to do. We don't need to worry about other things." "That's true." Letting out a bitter laugh, the 4th elder rubbed his chin, feeling that he had been worrying a bit too much. A battle at that level, even 1,000 of him would only be killed. Instead of worrying about these unrealistic things, he would rather focus on improving his cultivation and try to reach the peak level late class Bing Yuan realm as soon as possible. Reuniting with Lu Hanshan and the other two, Yi Chen gave the subtle fragrant sword back to Zhu Mei and said, "Big sister, thank you for lending me your sword. Without it, it would be very hard for me to beat them." Zhu Mei smiled and said, "With your current strength and potential, you will soon have your own low-rank sword. I heard that your Yi family has a family heirloom sword, the Absolute Shadow Sword. This sword can break through the obstruction of the air, increase the speed of the sword, and kill people without leaving a trace. There is this sword, but only the current patriarch can wield it." The Absolute Shadow Sword was one of the best low-grade swords. Its effect was to increase the speed of the sword and kill enemies with speed. However, Yi Chen had never thought about inheriting the position of the Yi clan master. That was not his dream. Looking at the tablet in the Rudra Martial School's head elder's hand, Yi Chen suddenly asked, "What is this little azure dragon tablet? Does it have a powerful background?" Lu Hanshan, who had always been knowledgeable, shook his head and said, "I don't know either, maybe not at that level yet. You see, none of the outer elders know about it, only some core and inner elders know about it, but they obviously don't want to say it. No matter what, this time, thanks to the Rudra Martial School." Yi Chen was very clear that a rank 7 martial institution was way more powerful than a rank 8 martial institution. A rank 7 martial institution's individual power was 1 or 2 levels higher than a Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder. They could still fight for a while, but as time went on, the gap between the two martial institutions and the Rudra Martial School's head elder would be obvious. Su Jing, who didn't like to talk, didn't say anything. She glanced sideways and saw the Emerald Martial Palace's head elder staring at that little azure dragon tablet with a gloomy face. In the middle of the battlefield, the Rudra Martial School's head elder slowly descended from the sky, stepped on the sand and said, "The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is not only a place of adventure, but also a place of slaughter. Our disciples have entered the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, their lives are all in the hands of fate. Not to mention the fact that you don't have any evidence, even if you do, you can't do whatever you want. As for the dead disciples, they are no longer geniuses, why do you have to fight for them? It's not worth it." The Multiple Mountain Martial School's head elder said unwillingly, "Then our eldest disciple died in vain. Since you've entered the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, you should be prepared to die. If everyone died like your Multiple Mountain Martial School, who would the other fallen disciples find to take revenge? How can they compare with Hong Qianjun?" A Multiple Mountain Martial School's inner elder retorted. The Rudra Martial School's head elder's face darkened, "2 disciples of our Rudra Martial School have died as well. Now, I suspect that it was your Multiple Mountain Martial School's disciples who did it. Can I take revenge on you? Once the little azure dragon token is sent out, the entire area with a radius of 1,000 miles around the Rudra Martial School will be flattened." How could it be our Multiple Mountain Martial School? The Multiple Mountain Martial School's inner elder's voice turned weak. He couldn't refute the Rudra Martial School's words, and if he insisted, the Rudra Martial School might really start a fight with the Multiple Mountain Martial School. The Multiple Mountain Martial School might be one of the most powerful institutions in the 9 nations, but compared to the Rudra Martial School's background, the Multiple Mountain Martial School was not even worth mentioning. Alright, let's call it a day. Let's all go back to our respective institutions. At the same time, the cyan light that had been soaring into the sky gradually dissipated, and the light gate had already disappeared into the air. The next time they saw it would be another 10 years later. Evil Blood Martial School, let's go. Shapeless Martial School, let's go. White Deer Cave, Yuehua Martial School, people from all institutions leaped onto their gigantic beasts and flew into the air in groups. Within a few blinks of an eye, they had all disappeared into the clouds. Glancing at Yi Chen, the Multiple Mountain Martial School's head elder snorted coldly in his head. A strong intent of killing emerged in his pupils, then he turned around and said loudly, "Let's go back as well." After all the people from the other 8 nations had left, the Emerald Martial School and the Purple Sun Martial School's head elder also left one after another. Soon, only the people from the Rudra Martial School and the Sky Cloud Martial School were left. The Sky Cloud Martial School's head elder cupped his hands and said, "Elder Long, this time, our Sky Cloud Martial School owes the Rudra Martial School a huge favor. We will certainly report this to our leader when we get back." The Rudra Martial School's head elder had the same surname as Long Bai. The Rudra Martial School's head elder said in a mysterious tone, "I didn't do this to help the Sky Cloud Martial School, but to help that little bastard." The head elder followed her gaze and asked curiously, "Yi Chen? Indeed, he has great potential, he doesn't deserve to die in this unfair fight. But of course, he still has to walk his own path in the future. No one can help him, powerful people can't become powerful without help." The head elder nodded. She was right, those who could truly become powerful were all those who had survived. As for those so-called geniuses who had been living under the protection of their elders, they were like flowers in a greenhouse, they could never become powerful people. Only those who had gone through thousands of hardships could have a slight hope of becoming powerful. About the little Azure Dragon token, only you leaders should know about it. They don't need to know about it, because it won't do them any good. Elder Long said again. "I know about this." The head elder was not stupid, he understood a lot of things right away. If he guessed it right, Yi Chen had been selected for now, but he should not be the only one. There were countless geniuses in the South Shore region, and even the entire True Spirit continent. Some of them had great achievements in the early stages, but became mediocre in the later stages. Some of them were just ordinary in the early stages, but could amaze the world in the later stages. No one could tell for sure. The only way was to replace them with numbers, and then slowly eliminate the unqualified ones. Under Elder Long's lead, the people of the Rudra Martial School got on their demonic beasts and flew towards the Windy Nation. Clearing his throat, the head elder said, "Don't ask too much about what happened today." Yes. Yi Chen and the other three were a bit confused, but they still nodded. "All right, let's go back." Screech! Screech! Riding on the Windy Eagle, the group of people carried the dead bodies of the Sky Cloud Martial School's elders and flew into the air, soon disappearing into the horizon. 10 days later. The group returned to the Sky Cloud Martial School. That night, the leaders of the Sky Cloud Martial School had a meeting. The next day, Yi Chen exchanged all the things he had gained from the Heavenly Dream Ancient region for a huge amount of low-rank and mid-rank soul stones. Originally, he didn't plan to hand over the Great Mystery Art Manual, because the other mid-rank Earth Realm Palm Art Manual was more than enough for him. However, the battle in the desert had made him realize something. Since those elders of the Sky Cloud Martial School were willing to risk their lives for him, why should he keep it to himself? He believed that with these two mid-rank Earth Realm manuals, the Sky Cloud Martial School would be able to return to its peak within a few years, and might even become a Rank 7 institution. During this trip to the Heavenly Dream Ancient region, Yi Chen had gained a lot. Except for the two mid-rank Earth Realm manuals, he had exchanged all the other things he had gained for 100,000 low-rank soul stones. Adding the mid-rank Earth Realm manuals, he had gained a total of 100,000 low-rank soul stones and 6,000 mid-rank soul stones. According to the actual value, that was 400,000 low-rank soul stones. 400,000 low-rank soul stones was a huge amount to the entire Sky Cloud Martial School. After all, every single member of the Sky Cloud Martial School needed soul stones for their cultivation. Day by day, it would accumulate to an astonishing amount. These 400,000 low-rank soul stones equaled to the Sky Cloud Martial School's storage for years. Normally, an inner elder wouldn't be able to earn so many soul stones even if he spent 10 or 20 years, because they didn't have anything more precious than a mid-rank Earth Realm manual. With such a huge amount of soul stones, Yi Chen wouldn't have to worry about not having enough soul stones to cultivate for a long time in the future. Of course, his previous worries were not without reason. At the early condensing reality realm, one low-rank soul stone would be consumed every 5 days. Yi Chen's consumption rate was twice as fast as the others, which meant that he would consume 2 low-rank soul stones every 5 days. At the mid-condensing reality realm, Yi Chen would consume 2 low-rank soul stones every 3 days. At the late condensing reality realm, he would consume 2 low-rank soul stones every day. And at the early clasping yuan realm, he would consume 10 low-rank soul stones every day, which meant that he would consume 300 soul stones every month, and 3,600 soul stones every year. With his original storage of low-rank soul stones, he would only be able to cultivate for 3 years. After 3 years, he would have to do some tasks for the school to exchange for soul stones, or just like this time when he came to the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, he would have to exchange for some precious treasures. How much he could exchange for would depend on his luck. At the very least, after reaching the clasping yuan realm, he wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. Instead, he would have to worry about the number of soul stones. It was said that in large-scale auctions, items would no longer be auctioned with gold, but with soul stones. Whoever had more soul stones would be able to buy what they wanted. At the moment, Yi Chen just needed a low-rank great sword, so he would need to use soul stones for sure. A few more days passed. During this period, Yi Chen didn't start to cultivate the mysterious great art right away. Instead, he spent some time digesting the experience he gained from the fights, and turned it into his own. After he had fully comprehended it, he started to cultivate the mid-rank Earth Realm martial art, the mysterious great art. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.